Hello, everyone. I am Anna Fishman, and we are recording podcast episode 7. Super excited to have Jamie Jackson with us today. We had to reschedule a few times. We were just talking about this, how like winter was kicking personally my butt for sure. And maybe if I stayed in better shape, I would be going through winter a little bit better. But this is very timely because today is January. What January something? I don't know. First week back to after the holidays, first week back to the office. I saw this funny reel this morning saying January is just one really long Monday. So this is our very long Monday, first day back. But I'm really happy to have Jamie as our guest today because we will have a very timely discussion about New Year's resolutions and keeping in shape and staying in shape. And just about all the fun things, travel and work and life. So, Jamie, thanks for so much for taking the time to chat with us.
No, I'm happy to be here. And like you said, I think it was for good reason that we postponed to now because talking about the new year, prioritizing your well-being, taking care of yourself, and planning your travels for the year. So I think it's a perfect time for this discussion.
Absolutely. And I even can give myself a pat on the back. I did squeeze in a 20-minute workout this morning, so I feel good.
Amazing.
New Year's resolutions, which I hope is not going to be my January 6th, 7th, 8th resolution. I hope it's going to stick with me for the rest of the year. But Jamie, before we jump into that all the nitty-gritty about that, can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you're so passionate, who you are and why you're so passionate about this topic of health and well-being?
Yeah. Okay, so as you said, my name is Jamie Jackson. I'm the director of sales for Wanderlux Destinations. We are a representation company. We represent hotels, DMCs, and travel services around the world. So, having clients around the world, our team travels very frequently. We would say that our owner, Tara D'Agostino, myself, are probably up to about 25 weeks a year that we're on the road visiting our partners and then also visiting with travel advisors. So, we are the connector between our partners and travel advisors in North America. So, if you are a travel advisor, in the US, Mexico, or Canada, we are the people trying to connect you with our partners, our clients. And so that is why we are doing what we are and where we're going. Topic, well-being. I was born and raised in a very sports-minded family. And so that was always one of the top priorities, being on a sports team, training for your season and upcoming things. And it was something I carried through in life and in college. Like in college, instead of studying at night, I would go for a run. And that's how I cleared my brain and like prepared for a test or got ready for something. So it was something that always worked for me. I'm always a very kind of regimented person as well. I would say I'd probably do pretty well in the military because I like sticking with the routine. So when I actually got into travel, I started off as a travel advisor. And so I was working in a host agency, kind of learned the role that way, started traveling more and more. And, I think along the way, you learn what routines work for you, which don't. I think all of us start, like when kids go to preschool, you start to get sick when you're traveling and doing all these things, getting that jet lag. And I've kind of over the years figured out what works for me and for my body when I'm traveling. I learned I don't drink alcohol now when I fly on planes. I don't really eat too much when I'm traveling. I really stick to a sleeping routine. And to me, staying in a fitness routine when I'm traveling is very important as well. And I think that keeps me healthy. A really good example was I went to visit family and was flying home right around New Year's, and our flight was super delayed. We didn't get home till like 2:30 in the morning. And when I'm home, I go to power yoga, and the class is at 5:30 a.m. So I get up at 5:02 a.m. every morning for that. And I could have just said to myself, you know what, I'm going to sleep in this morning because I only had like 2 hours sleep by the time I got home and everything. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to get up with my alarm. I'm going to get into my routine and I'm going to start my day. And it was the best thing I could have done because I didn't sleep too long. I didn't get out of my routine. I didn't, you know, feel exhausted. I got my workout in, felt good, went to bed early that night and started over the next day. So to me, having a routine and sticking with it, even if this is a little hard to do in the beginning, it really helps kind of get into a good mode. So
That's amazing. There is no way in hell I would have woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But we actually met on
saying
the
it's super easy, but I wish
yeah, that's
we
some
did.
dedication. And like I was gonna say that we met back in a couple of years ago in France when we were on a trip and I remember you were saying like, oh, like we would come out for breakfast and you're like, oh, I did a run like through the around the hotel, the block. I was like, wait, what? I just like barely could open my eyes. So I was really impressed how you were able to squeeze in those little pockets of free time that we had early in the morning, because later in the day we usually would be raising a few glasses of some kind of a liquid or whatever is original. So that's hard to do. But in the morning, that, that's, I give you a lot of credit for actually sticking to that and being able to, my husband always says mind over matter. Like you put that thought in your head, and that, like, I'm doing it. And it doesn't matter what time it is, it doesn't matter what time zone I am, and I'm just gonna do it. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think the snooze button is everyone's worst enemy because you're like, oh, just 5 more minutes. Five. I'm like, really, what is 5 more minutes going to do for you? Except for you could be doing other tasks in the amount of time that you keep snoozing. So I try to, like in the afternoon every day, set my alarm for when I know I want to get up the next morning and kind of get either a stretch in or workout or something before I start checking my emails and start kind of going down that dark path of the rest of the day. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because once we open that phone, forget it. It just sucks you in.
Yes, it really does. So, and that's what I love about kind of getting up early and getting it done and out of the way before you get distracted from everything else.
Yeah.
So, but I love what you said. Even 20 minutes is amazing. Get something in, get your body moving, kind of get the whole kind of stimulation going, and you feel good. No matter how much time it takes, just do something to get moving.
Absolutely. Like, I probably grew up in the least sporty family in the world. Our sport was making pierogies and eating them 3 times a day. That's what we did for. So, I didn't grow up with that discipline of movement, or, putting prioritizing sport, which shows on my hips. But, it's in the theme of our podcast, and the big theme of the podcast is giving yourself permission to live your best life, to do the things that you want and you love. And it's amazing how it's all in our head. Like, this morning I could have been like, oh, I only have 20 minutes. Like, what's the point? I'm not gonna like make a huge difference. But I told myself, and I started doing it about a month before the holidays, because I hate the whole like January 1st new resolutions. Like, it's just too much pressure. Like, I don't want to do it then. So I was like, what, I'm going to start. I started in November. Like, I'm going to start working out once a week with a trainer. I know once a week is not going to make me look like a model at the end of the day. I know it's not going to be this huge difference, but I want to start making these small changes. And I could have woken up this
Mhm.
morning and be like, I'm gonna be late going to my session. It's only 20 minutes. What's the point? I've been eating like all this chocolates and baked goods over the last 4 weeks. I did a taste testing of like 10 tiramisu in 10 days in Italy. Like, what's the point, right? Of 20 minutes exercise. But I told myself, no, it's the first day back, like first full week back. And even if it makes no difference in the long term, I'm just like, I'm gonna do it. And I feel good because
No.
I was like, but then after that workout, I broke a little bit of sweat, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, good. Like, I was in a better mental state for sure.
Well, and I like what you said because it's not like it's all or nothing. Like, why can't it just be a little bit and just make it when you can and don't get mad at yourself, but at least try. And I think one of the biggest things is seeing how you progress as you do a little more and a little more. Because I was always a person who was very into cardio. In the past 2 years, I have gotten into the more of the understanding that you do need to add some weights to your routine and some resistance. And I love it now because the more I do it and I see myself getting stronger and like, oh, I can pick up those heavier weights. And literally, this was going from like 3 to 5 pounds. So it's not like I'm like, weightlifting anything crazy, but just doing a little bit. You see the difference, you feel the difference, and every little bit is better than doing nothing, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I um I try to make myself do it, because otherwise, and also like you said, having it scheduled, like regimented, having it in the schedule. Like, if I don't put it in my calendar, it's not going to happen. So I think that's
Yeah.
like one of the tricks. No matter
Mhm.
what's happening, put it in the calendar, and then you kind of, that's like self accountability, like that commitment, like
Yeah.
it's calendar. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
like do it. Um, Another thing that's been really motivating me, and which is something that you probably wouldn't think that would motivate, like I wouldn't think that would motivate me. People look at magazines and people look at social media, and they say, oh, like that woman looks great in the swimsuit, or like that guy looks great in like whatever tank top. What motivates me is when I go on my group trips with women, and a lot of the women that come on my trips are like 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus. And when a 70 plus year old can outwalk me, I'm like, uh-oh. Like that's what I'm like, if I want to be traveling into my 70s, like I need to
Right.
start taking care of my health now. Because it's
It's
not
so
about, like I don't care about looking good in the swimsuit. I never did, I never will. Like I kind of gave up on that. But like I want to be like healthy and strong and be able to do the things like to travel with my kids are older and to travel with my grandkids one day. And when I see these women who are like way older than me, but also are living their best life, like our
right.
younger generation, we need to like take note of that for sure.
That's so true. And I think you made a really good point because when we're traveling, you're carrying heavy luggage, you're going up and down, you're going up and down stairs, you're sitting on a flight for 6 to 15 hours, sometimes more than that, depending on where you're going. All of these different things really do add up. And if your body is in pain, that's not enjoyable because it kind of takes away from being in the moment where you are. And then you have to throw in there time change. So are you jet lagged too? So as you said, like, all of those little things and being healthy are all needed for travel. As you get older, you need to stay on top of that because anytime you're in pain, it takes away from the rest of the experience that you're living any part of your daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a lot of the women that tell me like, "Oh, I would love to do your trip, but I can't because of this or that physical ailment." Like even my own mom had a back issue last year and she's only in her early 60s. And I was like, Mom, you won't be able to walk as much as we walk on this trip. Like you're not going to be enjoying it. And I was like, oh my God, my mom is only in her 60s. And like, there are people who like walk through into their 80s and there are people who can't walk in their 50s. I'm like, yeah, you really need to like, start losing weight and pay attention to the movement and all those things. It's very important. And when we're
And
young, pay
honestly,
attention to
we all, yeah. And in a lot of countries, they don't have the compliances that we have. So elevators, handrails for some reason don't exist in most of Europe. I'm like, where are these handrails? They don't look pretty. They weren't needed at the time. I don't know. So yeah, it's important.
absolutely. Jamie, do you have any hacks or tips for jet lag and, maybe like drinking extra water, maybe like because I always feel like coming back from Europe, going to Europe, it's not as bad, but coming back, it always like throws me for a loop because I'm always like up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, great, I'm gonna get so much done. By 3 p.m., I'm like half dead and then I'm groggy. So I was like, maybe you have something that you can share with us that could be useful for traveling and jet lag.
So I agree that coming back is typically harder because a lot of times you're flying during the daytime. And a lot of people say, oh, I'll stay awake the whole flight so that when I go home, I'll go to bed. I honestly have the mindset that I can sleep anywhere. Like I can sleep with trains, planes, automobiles. So I try to sleep as much as I can on a flight, no matter what time of day it is. And then I go home and I'm still tired anyway. And I'll try to go to bed like the exact time I need to. But I think the biggest thing what everybody needs to do is the next morning, get up at the time that you need to get up. Whatever your typical morning alarm is, like mine's at 5:02 a.m. So I'm getting up at 5:02 the next morning, no matter what, when I get home from a trip. And then I'm not taking a nap the next day. Like you really have to push yourself through to the bedtime of the next night and like kind of just force yourself to get into that routine right away. Because if you're like giving yourself all this time, taking the naps and getting out of your routine, it's really difficult. So that's what I do to kind of push through the jet lag on the way home. It's
Do you,
not easy,
no.
but you gotta try.
Are you able to sleep though? Because
Mhm.
if I usually wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, like around 7, I'm not an early bird. But when I come back from Europe, 4 o'clock, I
Mhm.
wake up, 5 o'clock, I wake up, and I can't like sleep. My like brain
Yeah,
is
you get it earlier.
so that's what makes
Hmm.
it hard.
Yeah, and that does. Yeah, so you are up earlier. So I would say, okay, if the next morning you are up at 4 a.m., like, okay, unpack your bag, get some things done around the house. But again, try not to nap in that afternoon and try the next night to get on your routine. But so kind of push through that first day
Yeah.
and it'll happen more quickly than if you draw it out more.
Yeah, absolutely. I never nap. I'm just like not a napper. Like I'd be so tired, but I'm like dozing off, but like I can't like actually like lay down and sleep. But it's so hard with kids. I'm sure you can understand as your mom. Like by like
Well, I
4
think
p.m., you're like dead tired, and then the kids come home and like, oh my God, not that.
I think that's the thing is that I kind of say I don't have time for jet lag because I would come home when my boys were very young. And as soon as I got home from a trip, you'd turn on mom mode and you're like, you don't have time to be tired. So you just kind of force yourself to push through it. And I think that's how it all started that way.
Yeah. That's again mind over matter. Like if you make it a priority, you put your mind to it, like, okay, I need to get through this first day and then it's gonna be fine.
Mhm.
That will do it. I tried different things. There is a I think called time, I forgot. There's an app, a time shift, I think it's called, where like
Yeah,
it's
I've
you
heard.
put in your information like where you're going and it tries to like tell you how to adjust to the new time. And it's like, oh, in Europe, it's 10 p.m. Go to bed. I'm like, it's 4 p.m. in New York. Like, I cannot go
I
to bed
know.
right now.
Yeah, I know. They do say that you want to like try to adapt to the routine a couple days before, but in a perfect world, that's not or like that's not really happening in our worlds.
No,
No. So,
no, it's
and
not.
I think another big thing is like when you're getting back is also, staying very hydrated. I also take like some vitamin C and that when I get back because you never know, like just from being tired and being on airplanes, like the germs you're kind of open to. So kind of getting that little extra vitamin kick is always good upon a return too. And trying to eat healthy when you get back to it. I think that's what it is. You're rushing around and you're like, well, I don't know what to eat or I don't know what time it is to eat. Like, get back in your routine and try to make good decisions with like good fruits and vegetables when you get it back and not just kind of the processed junk food.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're
So it
traveling,
is
do you
hard
have,
when you don't have somebody serving you all your meals once you get home. I think that's the thing we always joke about. You're like, wait, somebody's not serving me when I come home. That's weird.
yeah, I dropped the towel on the floor and it's still there when I came back like 2 hours later. Like, no one picked it up. What's going on? No, it's definitely
Exactly.
hard. Coming back into like the real life mode is definitely hard. Even if you're traveling for work, it's just like it's a whole different set of expectations and things that are happening around you. So yeah, and then when you're coming home and you're picking up. Now you're the maid for the kids and everyone else in the house.
Yeah.
So when you're traveling, I'm sure you in like different time zones, different hotels, different, schedules. Do you have certain things that you always do? Like, I remember you mentioned you do yoga in the hotel room. Like, do you have like kind of
Mhm.
like go-tos that no matter where you are, you'll always do those and they kind of like give you a boost of energy?
Yeah, so one of my things is when I get to a new country, kind of landing, if my hotel room is ready, maybe I'll go shower and kind of get cleaned up and wake up that way. But I love going for a walk as soon as I get there, getting that fresh air, kind of like getting acclimated to where you are and understanding the environment. But I think getting the fresh air and the movement is a huge thing to do the day you get there. And then when I do workouts when I'm traveling and on the road in the mornings when I get up, huge bonus for any hotels that are listening here. If you have a yoga mat in your room, that is an extra thing that I love. I think it's so great for people. Like, you don't even have to do yoga, just stretching. I think like when you're sitting on an airplane and kind of all your muscles are so constricted for a short amount of time, just doing some easy stretches, even in the mornings or that evening, anything like that to kind of get your body loosened up. So because I take so many classes, I do kind of have routines in my brain that I can put together and I might just put on my AirPods and listen to music and do things. Or there's different videos that like I belong to like a yoga collective where I can do a 15-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute video depending on how much time I have. There's all different types of apps for things like that. It's really just kind of like a stretching routine that I'll do in my room. If the hotel has a gym, I might go down there, do some weights or some cardio or something like that. Or if it's nice out, I'll go for a walk outside too. So I
That's
think it's a
going
great
shop.
way to kind of learn and get lost in a city or a place where you are.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think we have a little bit of a delay with our service, but I was going to say, does going shopping count as cardio?
100%. It always is considered cardio. It's a very good exercise to go shopping. Yes.
When I'm in Europe, like I mostly travel to Europe and I look at them, I'm like, how did I do 15,000 steps? And I was okay. Like I didn't like, oh, but at home, I'm like, oh, 3,000 steps today. Like it's again, mind over matter. I'm motivated. I'm excited. It's a new place to explore. At home, I'm like, I don't want to go around the block again. I don't want to go to this park. So just need to find
Right.
things. kind of like, keep me more motivated and keeping me on track because unfortunately I can't do 20,000 steps in Venice every day. It's just like not part of my everyday life.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, very true.
Speaking of Venice, I was thinking I just came back from a group trip there and I was thinking that's a great place for exercise. There are no cars, there are all these bridges, so you're forced to walk everywhere. I was like,
Mhm.
maybe if I move to Venice, I will be forced to walk everywhere and do all the steps. I'll get in better shape. And
That is one. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's one thing that is hard about the US. I think so. We live in so many places that you drive everywhere. It's not as, easily walkable as so many places we like to visit in other countries.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for your time. This has been great motivational chat at the beginning of January. I hope we gave some people who will listen, no matter where they listen, when they're listening in January or August, a little bit of a motivation to just get
Mhm.
up, put on those sneakers, go for a 5, 10, 20-minute walk, do a little exercise, do a little stretch. It all counts down the line because once you get into your 60s, 70s, and 80s and you still want to move and travel and enjoy the world, take care of your body now.
Exactly. I love it. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm always here to chat.
Thanks, Jamie.